Hi, I'm Marlee Head. Welcome to Just a Thought. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Just a Thought. Lately I've been talking about the more structured aspects of poetry and prose, but this episode I want to discuss a different area of writing, journaling. There are some really wonderful benefits to writing in a journal. Perhaps first and foremost, it allows you to get your feelings out more easily than any other kind of writing. With poetry, you have to think of something to write about so that you can encase your feelings in it. But journaling is all about just getting your feelings out without worrying about any kind of form or structure. It also helps you to remember when specific events happened and how they impacted you. Looking back through old diaries can be a really good way to find inspiration for other forms of writing as well. I personally have kept a journal ever since I was a young child. Obviously, the content of those entries has changed over time, but I've also changed the way that I format the entries themselves. When I was younger, it was always a Dear Diary approach, with the date at the top and my name signed clearly at the bottom. Now, however, I use not only the date, but also the time and description of how I'm feeling as the introduction, and then the time and description of how my feelings have changed since writing as a conclusion. Recently, I've also been experimenting with just writing down a few lines of whatever's running through my head and my heart at any given time. No prelude or postlude whatsoever. This is a freer approach, and for those of you who are nervous about writing or unsure what to put down, it might be a good idea to try. Entries can be as flowery or as candid as you like. Another important part of journaling that is related to the formatting is the actual journal that you write in. For a long time I kept my journal on a Word document on my laptop, but in a world that is centered around electronics, it can be good to step back from that sometimes, and journaling is a good opportunity to do so. This is my current journal, and I use it for just about everything, not just journal entries. Lists, poetry, sketches, whatever I want, whatever I need to remember goes in here. I've devoted one page to what I call my random page. Whenever I feel a word particularly strongly, I write it there. While it's not a technical journal entry, it is an informal record of who I am and what I'm feeling at any given moment in time. I also keep a journal for my mantras and meditations. I received this journal from a friend when she traveled to China, and I think it's a wonderful place for me to keep all of the sayings that bolster my confidence and remind me of who I am. While journals are a wonderful personal record and means of release, some people have published their journals. Perhaps the most famous example is that of the Diary of Anne Frank, a poignant personal account of an adolescent girl hiding from the Nazis when they invaded her hometown. She and her family managed to stay hidden for almost 2 years before they were discovered. On a somewhat happier note, I also found this lesser-known journal called The Country Diary of an Edwardian Lady by Edith Holden. It's a combination of art and writing, and a reproduction of a diary kept by a woman in 1906. Most of the book is devoted to wonderful, beautiful paintings done by the author, but she also wrote poetry, current events, and sketches in it. The thing that I really like about this journal is that it shows that entries can be short and simple. For instance, on March 28th, she wrote, "I gathered some of the young crimson catkins of the black poplar. The last few days have been very cold and dry with a keen north wind and any quantity of March dust in evidence. This morning I saw some frog spawn which had been brought in from a pond, together with some little caddis grubs in their funny little cases of sticks and straws. One grub looked very smart. He had stuck his house all over with bits of bright green rush and a water plant." Later, on October 16th, she wrote, "My sister sent me some lovely crimson toadstools with white spots this morning from Keston Common. Though a good deal damaged by the journey, all of the heads of the toadstools being severed from their stems, I managed to make a sketch of one or two." Another interesting book I was lucky enough to come across is Inward Journey, Art as Therapy by Margaret Frings Keyes. As the title suggests, this book focuses more on art than on writing, but as Holden showed in her diary, not all journaling has to be about words. Inward Journey illustrates some really wonderful ideas about not just writing things down or drawing, but also a more three-dimensional form of journaling. One of these is the self box. Here it gives instructions on how to make one. You will need a cardboard box, scissors, glue, and a pile of old magazine pictures. You are going to make a three-dimensional representation of you. It does not have to be a box. Any shape with an inside and an outside will do. Make something that feels right to you in terms of size, depth, and breadth. Starting with a cardboard box, you can cut the openings that allow other people to see inside. Determine what you keep on the inside of you. What do you choose to show on the outside? Represent these. Paint if you choose, or glue on parts of magazine pictures, materials, and favorite objects. I really love the idea of representing yourself through physical materials. It's just another form of journaling and self-expression. I also want to read to you what the author said about self-boxes. But I'm not an artist, you may protest. If I were, this would look better. Skill with the use of art materials is not the point. You played with material and creative possibilities with what you found. You are not concerned here with art, but with using materials to extend your awareness of your own experience possibilities. Of course you are not Picasso. You are you. You are finding out more about you and not comparing or ranking with anyone. You are unique. I really love this paragraph because it did an amazing job of representing the necessity of creative expression. I think if you change the word art to writing, you'll find that the same ideas hold true. I'm going to move on from journaling to a slightly different form of writing, letters. While diaries are more personal expressions of what you're feeling and who you are, letters are intended to be read, sometimes by one or two people, or sometimes by a bunch. Today, with technology, it seems that there aren't so many uses for letters, but there are some. There is an organization called Child Fund, where you can choose a child from an impoverished country to sponsor. When I was about 8 years old, I chose to help a child from Sierra Leone, Africa. I should mention that in addition to helping sponsor the child and paying for their food and their clothing and their education, the only way to communicate with the child is by writing to them. I was able to watch this girl from the other side of the world, seeing her life improve, watch as she grew up. Even 7 years later, we're still writing letters together. I would like to read to you an example of one of these letters that she sent to me about 4 years ago. While the language is hers, and the words that she wrote down, she decided on, it was interpreted into English by an interpreter. Dear Marlee Head, the dry season has started with its cold and dry breeze blowing in from the Sahara Desert. It is extremely cold at night and during the early hours of the morning. During the day, the sun shines bright and very hot. The rainy season has not been favorable, especially during the months of July and August, with frequent and heavy downpour of rains, which sometimes prevented us from visiting our upland rice farm. Extend our season's greetings to friends and family. Till then, hoping to hear from you. Much love to you from Jeva. She loves you. Another experience I've had regarding letter writing is a game that one of my friends found in a book. We decided on a place and a time, and then we made up characters. Then we wrote each other letters pretending to be those people. Sometimes it's taken research, but we've managed to weave a whole story just out of writing letters. It's a great writing exercise, if nothing else, because it requires us to think of ways to get in all the important details without much of a setting. It's also deepened our friendship. Letters are a really great way to extend or maintain or even add to friendships all around. Children's author Roald Dahl writes in his autobiographies, Boy and Going Solo, that when he was in the Air Force and while in boarding school, he wrote his mother almost every day. Years later, after her death, Dahl discovered that his mother had kept every single one of his missives still in their envelopes. While they spent years in other countries, mother and son never forgot their love of one another and was able to maintain their relationship. The important undercurrent beneath all writing is that we need a way to maintain ourselves, to remind ourselves of who we are, to keep ourselves grounded. Furthermore, we as people need to let other people know who we are. There are all sorts of ways we can do so, but writing in all of its forms can help ourselves stay grounded. Until next time, happy writing.